of the documentation. So this is my dealer hub. This is all the projects I've ever run. So if I want to edit the design, I click this button. If I want to download a DXF file and open that up in CAD, this is the same. This does allow me to to show a top plan. Here I can put my my company attributes perhaps in here, AV dealer, my company attributes. I can print out front elevations, rear elevations, top plans, isometric views. Really, really useful. And obviously projects are generally designed at the top level in CAD. So here I can add some layers. I can freeze layers, turn layers on and off. I can add sockets, general purpose outlets. You can see my subwoofers and height channels. So that's the CAD drawing. I'm sure everybody's familiar with that. We still stick with that. We still think that CAD is the way to go. Export to PDF, you can see that. I can export this to Word, so if I need to make some changes and update some my bio, perhaps my company awards, a little bit about us, I can edit that a little bit easier in Word. Video calibration reports, so here you can see just some basic levels really. This will hopefully help people do the brightness, color, contrast, tint, overscan, just the basic front panel stuff, as well as understanding what IRE grayscale tracking is, color temperature, using fairly basic instruments. We don't expect people to have Klein K10s and Minoltas, but it's a really good thing to leave with your clients, just to let them know that you've done the basics. Will also help you with the CD awards if you plan to enter those. Audio calibration, lots of people will just put in the AVR or the processor documentation output, but if you wanted to go old school and use a multiplex mic kit, maybe a sound pressure level meter, and do this old school longhand, then the document is there to do that. We call this DTools. This is basically for a bill of materials. Obviously we're global, so we don't have pricing, because obviously we couldn't do pricing in Singapore and in the Far East and things, but what we can do is allow you to export this data and just push this technical data into a project management software program such as DTools. There are others, SlatePlan, JetBuilt, WeQuote, Specify. There are lots, so check those out. You can email us an issue. I can honestly say, hand on heart, we haven't had that many. Maybe last year we probably got less than a dozen a year of technical bugs. We've seen a slight increase in that with 2.0, and that is predominantly due to browser related issues. So people that use Chrome and a version of Firefox and other things, and we found that the 3D model perhaps responds better in a version of Chrome than it did Firefox or Safari. So we're working through those. If you want to edit the design, you can edit this there. You can also now click and look around the room without downloading this into sort of Google Chrome or Google Glass, Cardboard or something like that, which we found quite useful. You can also download a VR and email that to your client, a virtual render. And again, if you want to edit the design, I can click edit the design, click OK. It will run off and build my design again for me. And now I can move the system around in much the same way. I can show my base modes for my base management. I can show my projector outputs, and I can double click on speakers. An interesting point here is if I click on this speaker and then double click on it, it shows me the heat maps which have been given to us by the speaker brand in question. If I click tow into the MLP, and this is something we're working on in the background, but if I click OK, let me just get rid of those modes. If I click, now you can see that I've towed that into the listening position, which will give me a really good idea of, the off-axis frequency response and the directivity indexes of those speakers. So this is something we're working on with polar plots and heat maps, which will give you, the integrator and the designer, a really good tool to help you design a cinema with the correct loudspeaker in the correct position. So that's where we are with those. Let me just turn those off. These are currently in our development, and we hope to get those moved over shortly. So we can also go in here and we can go into the wireframe version where we are working on, you can see some pools of lighting, you can see the primary and secondary lens multiply, you can see everything you need to see as far as how that cinema is going to be laid out. If you want to take some screen grabs and import those into some other documents, you can, but you can see that is part of our plan anyway. So if I go back into materials, I can double click on this seat, for instance, and then I could show the base analysis for that first fundamental, and I can see if I'm sitting in that, that first fundamental. So I can, see what happens in the second. So we're going to find this really, really useful as it goes on to help you, the integrator, just create, better experiences for your clients, which is ultimately what we're paid to do. So let me just get rid of that and close that down. So that's the documentation, and hopefully you've found that useful too.